Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another indie comic review, and in this indie comic review I will be reviewing Frank Miller's Pandora issue 1 and issue 2. And starting off with first things first, and that is the area of the covers. Do these covers in any way, shape or form connect to something that is happening inside with the story? For the first cover on the left hand side, I really think it does a really good job of presenting of actually something that does happen inside with the story, to which I give it a 7.5 out of 10. But for the second cover, it actually ends up losing that half a point and goes to a 7 out of 10. I'll now get things organized to show the internal art as well as some of the things that are happening inside story-wise. As I begin with the first issue and show the internal art with the second issue, as well as some of the things that are happening story-wise. So as the story begins here, we sort of get a little bit more information as to what these characters are in the second issue, as they're sort of like made out to be like some type of goblin of sorts. And we see things sort of like revolving around this particular flower, which connects basically from one universe to another. We never really learn who they are, so that's sort of kept a bit of a mystery. As we jump a little bit further into the story, we end up meeting the character of Annabeth, and of course she's talking to her grandpa here, who's also sharing some things with her. The story continues, we get to see some of the stuff that with her at school, plus also the things that are happening in the other world. And of course, like any teenager, she disobeys what her grandpa tells her in regards to something. We end up catching up with a particular character who we learn is Knox, but he's also called Meeks at the beginning of the issue. I think that could have been better addressed in the story. As the story continues, she of course finds one of the things connected to this particular run having to do with this flower, and of course she does get told off by her grandpa. As we start to move into the second issue, we learn that something has happened to one of the people, I think, connected to her, who I think it's a boarder living in their house, and something's happened and she's like lost all her stuff. And of course she seems to think it might be the police, or Annabeth seems to think it might be the police that did it. Wanted her to contact the police to see who did it. Of course, things happen at school or after school, to which she's basically called a bit of a spoiled brat. Things slightly move after the event, and she catches up with Knox again, until of course we meet up at a particular place to which she needs to, well, try to get more of what she got before. And as awkward situations present themselves, until last but not least, we reach the end, and also what Frank Miller has to share about this particular story. So, for the internal art rating, as it was quite consistent in both issues, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Moving into the story rating, there are, of course, 3 things that can presently be used in that, and one is the area of time, 1 location, and last but not least, cast of characters. In the area of time, we had yesterday come up in one of the issues. In regards to location, we had the goblins make reference to the Forbidden Zone, which I think it's indicating to Earth, to where Annabeth is. And of course we had the school and also the woods and also her home. The cast of characters consisting of Annabeth, her mother, Meeks, her grandma and grandpa, so both of her grandparents, Mrs. Dean, or Ms. Dean, one of the students that attends her classes, and last but not least, the character of Knox. For the overall story rating for these first 2 issues, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.